Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marketing Soul #Marketers Talks, the show where we interact with the top intellects of the industry. Today, we have Neerja Khushwaha, who is a product manager in Deloitte Bangalore studio. Neerja is usually found bridging the design, engineering, and business teams. She is passionate about building products and experiences that delight people and enhance their productivity. She also enjoys visioning and co creating things with cross functional teams with an irrational focus on the user and the first principles thinking. For the last 11 years, she has been on an amazing journey of leading and executing product discoveries, creative designs, tactical engineering, planning, and tons of learning from user behavior and market trends. Welcome, Neerja, to the show. Glad to
Hi
have you
guys,
here.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Sam, for this opportunity.
Its pleasure is all mine. Sir. Pleasure is mine, all mine. So, how has been the COVID so far for you?
COVID's been a roller coaster. COVID's been good. COVID's been bad. I don't know. I mean, I was happy that I got a lot of time to spend at home, which I usually wouldn't. But it was also just, restrictions on travel, there is the thin line between work and life was broken. You were working and you were also at home, so it's been a little different. But I think it's taught me a couple of things. Just that no matter what you plan for, you never know what's gonna happen. So we do a lot of planning, but nobody ever planned for a pandemic, right? And I think that is why it's extremely important for all of us to be very very resilient and very very proactive, because unless we are resilient, we can't uh, face what has happened, and unless we are proactive, we can't really adapt in an agile fashion to something else, like like education. For that matter, education in our country was all on physical locations, and now see, everybody's doing it online. So I think just being more resilient, being more positive, and accepting how things are, and by God's grace, being with my family for a long time, and again back to Bangalore. So yeah, it's been okay so far.
Perfect. Where are you right now? In the Bangalore or where?
I just arrived in Bangalore this weekend.
Okay, perfect. So can you share your journey as a marketer, maybe as a product manager, no, so that our audience can understand what exactly a product manager do?
Okay, so I am very organically built product manager, right? I mean, I never knew the title. I never knew what the title meant or what it said, or I didn't know I was a product manager for a very long time, because I come from a consulting company where you typically do services. So, the whole concept of project doesn't live there. Like, product is not there. So, when I very very young, like 5 6 years ago, as well, and I was whenever I used to think about a requirement or think about anything that I'm building, I always used to think about, what would I do? Like, I'm a user, or how would I use this? Or, at the end, if it's not me, if it's a 60-year-old person with an eye problem, how would they go about it? So those were the thoughts that would come to my mind, and that's how I started thinking more about users, more about, like, empathy, and more about just being curious as to what value, what mission, what am I here to solve for? Like, what's my just cause, right? I'm not here to just exist and make things because people have asked me to, but I'm here to prove a cause. And what's my cause, and what's my why do I exist? So I mean, it's just very organic. I try to implement similar things in my all my projects, and that time that role was called functional roles in the projects. And I try to get that thought back to the leadership, where we should be thinking more about users, and not, I mean, I'm not saying not about clients, but also about clients, and trying to figure out that what's that sweet spot that we can hit where our users are happy, are the company is making profit or is making savings. I did work in various industries like technology, life sciences. I've worked in aviation. I've worked in automotive. So it's different industries. I haven't been pretty attached to one, but I think I've done some media as well. So yeah, like if you were to call it, I've done a lot of technology, media, and telecom work in my experience so far.
I see. That's nice. That's nice to hear. Right. So, product designs generally, most of the time brands are very concerned about. So,
Right.
how one should take care of it?
So product design, I think it's not about, see, a lot of people confuse aesthetics with design. And I completely ignore that statement because I don't believe in it. For me, product design is all about how everything comes together and then works for the person who's taking it, works for the user who's using it. So most brands try to focus a lot on aesthetic, a lot on visuals, a lot on, like, how I can make it look more jazzy, how I can make it look more, I don't know, modern or whatever, right? But I think just releasing a smaller MVP before you launch your product in the market would be to just launch the leanest version without any, you know, fluffs that you want to have to. So just prove your theory first that the product works. The product does what it's supposed to be doing. It solves the main thing that I wanted to solve. And once you've done that, that's when you start thinking about, okay, how can I make it more modern, how can I make it more this, because if you look at just from an aesthetic angle, right, I think it would lead you somewhere, but it would be, I don't know, it would be maybe a product that no one will use. So on YouTube, I read about this guy who was talking about this great product. It's called it's a salt shaker. I forget the name. I think it was called Salt, but it's a music player in a salt box, and nobody's ever gonna use a salt, that has music. So I don't know, like, thinking about, am I really solving a problem that's worth solving is also a big part of product design. So yeah, prove your theory. Know there is a valid problem. Know there is a valid market that you can solve it for, and go to that market, interview users, figure out their pain points. And when you're figuring out their pain points, see what they do today, right? See what they do today to handle that pain point, so you also know what their alternatives are, like, how you can play not just in the ecosystem that you're playing but also a larger ecosystem. So I think just banking on your personas and user set and the market, and then figuring out product market fit, make a lean MVP, and then design your product in the leanest design possible, get that verified with the users, and if it clicks, you can have X to, I don't know, 100 iterations of the pure product in different colors, different sorts of things. But I think the first thing that you should look for is not really design in particular, but actually more matter in particular. Like, what am I really building? Is it solving a real problem? Is there a product market fit?
So, will this aspect you're suggesting is backed by data, or it's all the basic gut feel, or a small understanding of the user behavior goes out?
So I am half data, half gut. I and like how popular saying says, if we are going with data, let's go with data. If we are going with opinions, let's go with mine. because
That's right.
because yeah, so I think all of this is and I mean in the Indian market, like, you have access to users. I primarily do not work in the Indian market. My market is primarily US, so it's even more difficult for me to get users. So, back when COVID was not there, we could travel, we could get interviews and everything. But now it's not that possible for us. So again, being in a consulting company, we're trying to figure out what are other options, how do we do that? And I think that's why you should go with I think 50-50. That's what I call design thinking. It's about using data as not just data as a raw file format. I think insights from that data, what have you learned, what have you how do you see this projecting in the future, what do you think is the real problem here, like not just using product analyst data, but also using the insights that you get from that data. And then sometimes if you're launching a product that's zero to and that doesn't work in the market, and anything like that, you don't have data, you can definitely create that data by interviewing people, by talking to them, that oh, if such a product existed, what would you do, right? So there are different ways. And I also believe in gut. Sometimes I think I'm like 60% data and 40% gut, because I also know that if I know my users really well and I think like them, I am going to hit it at the place where it needs to be hit.
I mean, this point is rightly mentioned because when you know your customer properly, so any
Yes,
data is there, either it's going to match up or it's going to give you some hint around it, probably what you are saying. So I fully
exactly.
agree that gut, marketers is majorly is about gut only. So
Yeah,
I love the
yeah,
point. I love this
yeah.
point. Coming to that, like, have any some